Well, Healthcaregov has become a popular topic in Washington since its rollout in October.
Joining us now to talk more about the rollout is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. We appreciate you taking time today.
Not a problem.
With us. The rollout of the Healthcaregov has been a disaster so far. That there's
put it mildly.
Yeah, there's been almost nothing that's worked on it. Some people are being signed up, but it's a really slow rate. The president, as you saw, came out with an apology. You said recently that it was more of a non-apology. That it was, you used the analogy of running over someone's dog.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're really going to apologize, you also have to accept responsibility. And yeah, the analogy I use is kind of like saying, boy, I'm sorry your dog died, without saying, well, but my car ran over him. I mean, those are my tire tracks on that dog. So the president really has to acknowledge the fact that it is his health care law that is pushing people off of their health care. And it's tragic. I mean, there was a couple here in Wisconsin got pushed off, or will get pushed off the high-risk insurance pool, which is a program that worked. They both have cancer. She has stage 4 lung cancer. He has prostate cancer. They don't know where they're going to get insurance. Initial indications show that their premium will double. That's because of Obamacare. That's because something he did. And of course, he made that promise repeatedly over 30 times that if you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep it. That promise has been utterly broken. It's been shattered. And he's not fessing up to it. He's not taking responsibility. This isn't some random act. This is something he caused, and he needs to fess up to it.
At what point does Congress then start to move on, start to work together to fix the problems with the Affordable Care Act?
I hope we do it right away. I introduced a bill, if you like your health care plan, you can keep it act. Now, unfortunately, we have gone so far down the road with the implementation of Obamacare. I mean, the insurance companies have changed their policies because they had to, because they were forced to. But we can certainly create the environment so they can resurrect those policies so they don't have to include all these mandates, so healthcare doesn't have to increase at the types of rates it's going to be increasing because of Obamacare. So we should start acting now. I'd like to have our Democrat colleagues join us. Let's pass that bill. Let's try and prevent as many Americans as possible from losing the health care, and then make it possible for these plans to be really resurrected so that we don't continue to do more harm to people.
You mentioned your plan. If you like your plan, you can keep it act. How much of this is the healthcare industry taking an opportunity to maybe change plans or drop people off plans, and how much of this is Obamacare directly affecting
It's totally being driven by Obamacare, and this is just the beginning of it, because employer-sponsored plans will also start getting dropped as employers start responding to the incentives of just paying the $2,000 fine rather than $15,000 for family coverage. So it was designed to have everybody eventually go into a single-payer system. So again, this isn't a fluke. This is exactly the way it's designed. But I think what the administration's been shocked by is just the disaster of the website rollout. But again, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
You were on the Budget Conference Committee, a bipartisan committee formed to pass a long-term budget. You have said that you are heartened by the possibility of being able to pass a long-term budget. Do you really think you can do this?
Well,
29 members on this committee. Can you do this?
Well, I'm not sure that this committee will actually do long-term reform, but what we can certainly utilize this activity is to define the problem. Because I come from a problem-solving background. You have to first admit you have a problem, then you have to properly define it. And our problem is really a 30-year demographic baby boom generation retiring bubble as opposed to just a 10-year budget window problem, which dramatically understates the problem. So if we can start getting everybody on the same page, agree on the numbers, then we can start talking about what I always call a solutions menu. If you know what the problem is, let's start talking about how much of the problem does each one of these solutions solve. Then you are actually debating with real information rather than demagoguery. And I think that would be a positive step.
How hard is this going to be? Because when you mentioned that 30-year timetable, you're talking about Social Security, which you think could be in the tens of trillions of dollars of deficit over the 30-year time. Social Security is a third rail. How hard is that going to be able to work out, if not in a committee?
Well, first of all, nobody that I've ever talked to is talking about reducing benefits for current retirees or even people about to retire. We're talking about saving this program for young people like you. And when I talk to young people like you and ask, what do you expect to get out of Social Security and Medicare? The answer is always universal, nothing, which means you've got a pretty receptive audience. If we're dealing with facts and figures, if we get the demagoguery out of it, we got a pretty receptive audience for real reform. So again, let's get the demagoguery out of this. Let's work with each other in good faith. Let's start solving these problems.
All right. Well, we unfortunately are already out of time. We had all kinds of other questions for you, but we're running out of time. We appreciate your answers.
Well, thanks for having me in.
Thanks so much for being here.